Hi, everyone. Welcome to the
Hey.
second episode of The Link, the show which is a collaboration between APLA Health and Pyro Media Network. This is a show where being called a bitch isn't actually a bad thing unless, it is a bad thing. You know what I'm saying. So, if you don't remember, if you don't know us and this is your first time, first we're going to do quick introductions. So, hi, everybody. My name is Kai Smith. I'm program coordinator for 10 Healthy Him slash Swab and Chill. Who would like to go next?
Hey,
Hmm.
everybody, this is your boy Daniel J, prevention training specialist for Swab and Chill.
Hey
And I
everyone.
am. Oh, go ahead, Relio.
I was like, I thought we were going clockwise, but I'm
Ladies.
Rogelio. I am the prevention training specialist for Trans Connections.
And I am Ty. I'm linkage to care for our 10 program and Healthy Him.
So this is everyone. So if you don't remember, if you didn't tune in last week to kind of see our appetizer of a show where we kind of walked around and talked about different things, welcome. So today our show is going to be a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Pinpointed. So we have a topic for today. This week we're going to talk about basically what's happening in American politics right now. If you were under a rock, then you missed the debate on Tuesday. I know.
That feels like ages ago at
I
this
wish I
point.
was under the rock. I
Yeah,
would
it was.
I
prefer to
felt
be
like I was
under the rock.
watching it. I felt like I was under a rock.
Right.
But before we get into that, we definitely want to let everyone know what's happening at APLA first. So, Daniel, if you would please tell everybody about Swab and Chill and what you're doing and what they need to know about it.
So, if you haven't heard already, I don't know where you've been. You probably have been under that same rock I wish I was under during the debate. But Swab and Chill is our brand new initiative. We've been going for about 2.5 months strong right now. And it is an at home HIV testing initiative. And it is APLA's way of really bringing the need of knowing your status and putting the power of sexual health in your hands. So if you are somebody that you know is interested in receiving an at-home testing kit, you call us, we do a quick assessment with you, and then after that, we get your address, mail everything to you that you need. Everything has instructions in it, so it walks you directly through how to use the test. It takes about 20 minutes. So you can literally swab, put it in a solution, go to have a snack, watch a comedy, 30-minute comedy, of course, sitcom. Come back and there you go. Your results are right there. And of course, we're always available to assist if you need help with taking the test or, just need some hand holding along the way. And you can always contact us at 323-329-9713 or email us at swabandchill@apla.org.
Yay. Thank you so much for that, Daniel. So, yes, come swab and chill with us. Come swab and chill with us as we're
Oh
Yeah.
God. For my
Hashtag.
Y'all don't
outfit from
leave,
the
y'all don't leave
bloopers.
Relio alone. Okay. I loved it.
It
It
was
was
the
so
highlight
cute.
of the video.
Oh God.
Thank you so much, Daniel. But speaking of Rogelio, as many of you know, Rogelio has left the Healthy Him team, but they have gone over to Trans Connections. It's okay because we got Daniel, so it was like a little switch.
Swift.
But since since Rogelio's gone over to Trans Connections, there's a lot of new stuff going on. So Rogelio, I thought this would be a great time for you to let everyone know what's happening with Trans
Yeah, for
Connections.
sure. We definitely have a lot of exciting
Ooh.
announcements. So today we're actually launching Spectrum, which is our new support group. I kind of rebranded it from Club Triangle to Spectrum, and it's meant to be like really representative of the entire trans community. We want to be as open and as welcoming as possible. So if you're interested, you can definitely check us out on Instagram. We have all the information there to sign up. But you should also know about the other things we have going on. We have Level Up or Clear, which are basically one-on-one counseling sessions where we help people basically get their stuff together, set goals for themselves, and basically help them, promote healthy habits in their life. Aside from that, if you're HIV positive, we're doing our artist program where we connect HIV positive trans persons into medical care. So Ty and I have been working also to develop different content for those people. So we'll definitely be rolling more of that out soon. And also we're doing referrals for HRT. So if you're interested in getting on hormones or getting back on hormones, if you, for whatever reason, fell out of care, we can connect you to our clinic. And finally, we also have volunteer opportunities. So join our lovely group of advocates. We're 9 people strong right now. And we basically meet to help plan initiatives, catch up with each other. And it's all a really nice, supportive group. So definitely check out Trans Connections. We also recently had a guest, influencer Mars Wright, come on to do an Instagram takeover last week. And I was able to have a really, really good conversation with him about transmasculine erasure, we tend to focus so much on like trans women or trans femme people and not really trans masc people or trans men or non-binary people. You know, they are even more forgotten. So definitely check out everything we have going on Trans Connections. Like I said, we're most active on Instagram. You can find all the information there on where to contact and more information about our program. So yeah, check us out.
Yeah, thank you, Rogelio.
Sounds exciting.
Oh, there's a number down there. I was like, oh crap, I don't remember the number. I'm such a bad employee.
It was
But,
low.
you know, Pyro got us.
Don't worry, we got you covered. Still, guys, everyone remembers when I first started Healthy Him, I couldn't remember the phone number to save my life. So it happens. So yeah, great. Thank you so much, Rogelio. If you all are not following Trans Connections on social media, you should be, just because besides all the programming, it's just a lot of great information that's shared on Trans Connection. I know for Healthy Him, we try to share as much as we can too, because there's information there. And I know I didn't originally say it, but Ty, do you want to let people know about you and Linkage?
Oh my God.
This was not on the schedule.
Yes. So we have currently finished our Link Up, which is an online classroom for everything HIV related. So instead of worrying about, you know, getting information funneled at such a different pace, we wanted to create something that was for our clients that we were able to kind of like let them utilize on their own, research on their own. So the Link Up, apla.tumblr.com, is now up and running. If you want to know any kind of like resources in the area, if you want to link into care, you can do it all on our Link Up Tumblr. We will post the link to that. I literally just finished it, but it's your online classroom, your one-stop shop for everything HIV related. And it's really, really cool. I spent a lot of time on it. Even if you aren't HIV positive, check it out. You'll love the colors and the content. So definitely click that.
Come on, colors and content.
I did a good job with this.
You can watch a video of Ty
really
doing it. It's great.
Yes, you know it's crazy.
The
video of me starting like when like the image of it looks like a porn, but it's not. But you can still click it. It's okay. It's very safe. I promise.
We know.
The OnlyFans at the end of the video.
You better turn Tumblr into an educational HIV classroom. Come through.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Revamp.
Everyone, that link will be posted and shared, but we want to let you know it's coming, just, you know, for excitement.
Yeah. Wait for it.
All right. So I guess now is the best time to get into this week's topic of what's happening in politics right now. If you didn't see, a week ago from today, it was the debates between the current president and Joe Biden, our previous vice president. Yeah. And, you know, before we talk about even the topics alone, I just have to say, what a mess, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a stronger word, but it hasn't been created yet for what that debate was.
I did see a comment that was very interesting. It said that picking between Donald Trump and Joe Biden is like picking between chlamydia and syphilis. And I thought that was a little STD humor because we work in STDs. If you are suffering from an STD, please give us a call. Come in and get that treated.
Well, which one is chlamydia and which one is syphilis? Because
syphilis is harder to get rid of. So let's say syphilis is Trump.
At this point, it doesn't even matter. And I think that's actually a really great thing to bring up too. For a lot of people right now, voting just doesn't feel like you're winning. It's either you're losing, or you're losing a little bit. Exactly. And I think for a lot of people, especially, I think that's something that some people don't understand. Because I know every time you go on social media, everyone's screaming about voting. Voting changes the world. Vote, vote, vote. But I think oftentimes people don't realize that there's some places in some communities that, like, you know, even the idea of like people, the poll watchers, like voting is hard for some people. Getting work off Tuesday is hard for some people. So I think a lot of times when we talk about voting, we also have to talk about like some people, you know, voting might seem like the answer for you, but other people, voting has done nothing for them in their communities too. Mm-hmm. So I know for me, I'm encouraging everyone to vote, but the whole vote or die thing kind of feels like so hard to.
Yeah. Well, I think I think people need to understand that if you, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, that's why I'm here. I say the things most people don't. If you're white and in America, voting for you may not be like, you know, it's a whatever thing. It's a fly in the wind type of thing. But if you're a minority, if you are specifically a Black woman, if you're a Black man, if you're, you know, Latin, if you're any minority, if you're a person of color, we have to like fight and die to get the
Yeah.
ability to have our voice even heard. And I think what irritates me the most is when I do come across people who are minorities or are part of a disenfranchised group of people, they want to complain so much about what's happening in our country, about what's wrong, about this is wrong, this is wrong. Okay, well, use the voice you have. Even if you feel like, well, it's not going to make a difference, well, that's a defeatist kind of attitude, and that definitely is a choice. You voted to have that attitude, so you might as well go ahead and vote on who you want to be president. And I think that when we look at voting, most people only think about voting when it comes to these big presidential elections. They don't look at voting in the localized areas of your jurisdiction.
Agreed.
There are literally elections happening throughout the year for your county, for your city, for your region within a city. Like, there are so many things to vote on and create change. So I just feel like I can't force anybody to vote. I'm not gonna beat somebody in the head to say you need to vote or you're just not a great human being. But I will say, if you don't vote, you don't get the right to complain.
Can I piggyback off of that, Daniel?
Sure, I like that.
If you are, we do that often. If you are like one of those type of people who is just like, I am not voting, neither of these candidates can speak for me, I want you to think about this. All of the stuff that we've endured in the past 4 years, whether it had been directed towards Black people, Latino people, gay people, women, whatever the case may be, when you look at those things and you watch the news and you get uncomfortable, you have the voice to change that. And so often we get so many people that will be like, oh, I'm not voting. And it's hard to differentiate who's a stone cold, I'm not going to vote, from a person that's just seeking attention and wants you to beg them to vote. I'm not going to beg you to vote, but I'm also going to tell you not to, I'm also going to tell you not to complain if we get 4 more years of Trump because you decided to go on social media and say, I'm not voting for X, Y, and Z. Okay, so when these stories come out about Trump doing something stupid again, happens on our timelines and you repost it, I'm going to report you. Because the only reason he was able to do that was because you decided that you wanted to stay home on November 3rd. And if you are voting once every 4 years, you are missing several marks. Like, it's not just the presidential election that you need to be concerned with, because the president can only make so many decisions. You need to be worried about the Supreme Court and all that other good stuff that you are electing into to represent your state. And like Kai said earlier, it is very hard for some people to vote. Some people are being intimidated not to vote. Some people are getting their rights to vote kind of taken away from them, like under the rug. It's like, we're going to get rid of these polling places because of the COVID. But at the same time, you're talking to a population that does not mail ballots in, that do not know where to go to drop off a letter. And that's very real, and it's very, very scary. And I'm not going to beg you to vote, but if you don't, you are part of the problem.
And I will say it's one of those things where, we can talk politics all day long and people are going to choose who they're going to choose. They're going to ally to who they're going to ally to. But I think something that people really should consider, there is no such thing as a clean politician. I don't care how great or wonderful you want your candidate to be. There's no such thing as a clean politician. When you get in this business and you are in office and you get elected to be the president of the United States, you're representing an entire nation. There is no way that you're going to make everybody happy. And I say the same thing about Obama. Loved Obama, Michelle. Loved those 8 years of them in office. But Obama wasn't a saint either. He played the game the way that he needed to play the game so that he could stay in the seat that he stayed in to do what he did. There's some decisions he made that I absolutely did not agree with, but there are some decisions that he made that I was for. And so I think that when people try to have these arguments about, oh, well, Trump is so horrible and, Biden is just going to say, and I'm looking at them like, really? Like, have you not lived in America longer than 12 months?
That's real. That's very, very real. I actually did a post about how much I missed Obama. And I had one of my friends who is Latino. He told me about, he respected Obama, but at the same time, the immigration, the immigration process or something that Obama did as far as immigration. I don't know exactly what it is and I don't want to mess it up. but it was something that he said there was like, it affected my people directly, and I feel a way about that. And I had to check my privilege, because just because it didn't affect me directly doesn't mean that I should not know what this is.
For sure.
So I did a little research on it, and I took that in, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, that was pretty messed up. I think that like Daniel said, these people are human. They play the game, and they have their own agendas when they go into these offices. And everybody's not going to get it 100% right. If the 4 of us ran for president and 1 of us made it, we're not going to get it 100% right. So it's easy. Rahelio might. Literally, Rahelio will require makeup as we walk into the office. You have to be on point. So
we will talk about your ass.
It was an interesting conversation, in my opinion, because I didn't take notice of that. So I'm happy that, you brought that up, Dave.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to realize, because like I try as hard as I can not to be a fan of any politicians, and especially presidents, because most of us, most Americans, most people will never know what it's like to hold that much power in your hands, to have that much influence over the world. So I think it's really ridiculous to like stand politicians, or, I think that's one of the worst things that's happened out of Trump, is like he makes so many people romanticize even like George Bush, which George Bush was a horrible fucking person. And it's just because he isn't as outwardly like dumb as Trump, I guess, and isn't outwardly as like stoking these flames, that he doesn't get the same criticism. But yeah, I think it's really important for us to realize
he was definitely sneaky dumb. He was sneaky dumb.
Right.
Like, it was like, oh, I'm dumb, but I don't want you to see it.
This is why, even though I know it's fiction, shows like Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder, those play in the back of my head, because when I see some of the things that come across my news line, in my head, I'm like, I bet that bitch is sitting in the back of the room talking about, if you put this out, I'm leaking this, and this, so you better go ahead and lie to these people.
Right. But I think the other thing too that I was going to say with that is that like we can't, because like the phenomenon that you were talking about, there's a bit of conversation about that in terms of like the online political community. They call them doomers instead of like boomers, so doomers are the people who are just like, oh, nothing matters, everything sucks, we have no power to change the systems that we're in. And to some degree that is true, because we as individuals have very little power in terms of influencing things like corporations, something like climate change, which is like all goes back to these like few corporations which are causing 70% of emissions. We as individuals, we could go vegan, we could do the best to be zero waste, but that's like not going to even make a dent in that. So I think it's important that both things exist at the same time. Not only that, we shouldn't trust politicians, and at the end of the day, we do have a choice. I say bully Biden 2020 because it's like you don't have to like him, but it's like, once he is in office, then you can use that time and energy to bully him, because he's a horrible candidate. And I also don't want to give the impression that like just because he's not Trump, he's good. Because he's not good.
No,
he was literally the worst option we had up there out of all the Democrats, and we still wound up with Joe Biden. So I think it's important for us to sit with the fact that like two things can be true at once. We cannot like either of these. We could be disillusioned by electoral politics, but also we can realize that there is a choice to be made. And especially if you live in a swing state, because like if you live in California and don't want to vote for Joe Biden just because you feel disgusted writing his name down or circling that bubble, California's going to go blue, even if Biden or Trump were up against like a blue paper bag, it would go blue. So it's like, I'm not going to harp on those people, but I do think people who are saying it's exactly the same when Trump has like done everything to degrade so many of our systems and institutions that like check power in this country. And when he's also just like so cozy with fascism, I think that that's really dangerous and short-sighted of people, because at the end of the day, we'll have an easier time, getting our goals done with somebody like an uninspiring, moderate like Biden than like a full-on fascist like Trump.
Not Kanye.
Right.
Look.
Kanye was on the
Look.
Can I pose a question to the group really quickly? Or
yeah, for sure.
Do you guys feel like that after this election, the two-party system is done? Like, I am so done with Democrat and Republican. Like, we need way more options than just these men that are so bored, and they're just like, I just want to run the country. And it's like, okay, but I currently live in this country. So you being bored, wanting to figure out what you're going to do during the like people look at the presidency like it's golf. Like, who's our next president? Jocelyn Hernandez? Like,
Well, here's
it's
the
like
thing.
if you get bored, you run. Like,
I was having this conversation with the bestie, and one of the things that I said, right? One of the things that I said about living in a two-party system, technically, there's no law that says you can't create another type of party. Hence, why you have all these different independent parties.
the
Even
birthday party.
right, even if you look at the presidential candidate that Kanye is attached to, Rock De La Fuente Guerrera. He created an entirely different party when he ran in 2016. So it's not necessarily that you can't have a party, it's how many people are going to support that party. And unfortunately, we live in a country where Republicans and Democrats are the longest standing parties in our history. And so you have had people that have gone and created like green parties, they've created independent parties, they created, called them all kinds of different things. But again, you have to have a really large group of people that are going to support that party. And unfortunately, we just don't live in that type of a country. And it's interesting to me because even with the debate, going back to that, I found it very interesting. I was watching CBSN something, and one of the reporters was talking about like how she had been going to a lot of colleges and following this campaign with Biden and Trump and interviewing a lot of people. And a lot of people in colleges are like, we're looking for Biden to be much more aggressive in his debating skill and in his campaign, and we just feel like he's not being as aggressive as he was when he was vice president under Obama. And I think it's interesting because to me, I feel like part of that aggression is the fact that you were the vice president and that anything that you said or did, Obama would take the flak for because he was the president and you were standing behind him.
I didn't want Crazy Joe at the debate because Trump was crazy enough. I was like, if Crazy Joe taps into his crazy, this is going to be a nightmare. It was a nightmare in general. It was like watching two kindergartners talk about who gets to play tag first. And I was like, this is what the country is. I do think it's very interesting. I would love to get a white man's opinion on what he saw at the debate because right now y'all looking real crazy.
Well, I don't think people expected Joe to go crazy, but I know there were moments where Trump came with the kindergartnery and
moments.
This whole thing.
There were times where he could have been a little bit more aggressive in his response, and I feel like it was very passive.
So this is what I think from the debate, the way that they both handled it. So getting back into the debate, two-party system, I think it's not a good thing, but it's going to be a matter of restructuring everything. So if it happens, I don't think it's going to happen until like another 2 or 3 more presidency terms. It's going to be a while.
Do you think we'll be alive?
We'll probably be older. Just older. Not old.
Okay.
Older.
Well, I already have the gray hair, so I'm ready.
Yeah.
We talk about this past debate. The first real thing that we noticed is I could see who they were trying to beat before they even Trump, I think, came in there with the mission to serve chaos, to just be for his fan base. Let's be honest. After this debate, being undecided seems like a really weird choice at this point. Like, it confuses me because they're so different and they handle the entire situation so differently. So when we talk about things like, we can go in their first topic, the economy. When we look at what, the president was talking about for the economy, he was talking about things like, low unemployment, a strong growth, as well as a strong stock market. But of course, this was all before pre-COVID. And then Joe Biden actually pointed out that a lot of this stuff is only kind of representing the really wealthy. So like the stock market growth, that's great. I'm not in the stock market. So me as an average, like, great, the stock market.
There's a show that I saw that had a line that was like, the stock market is just a chart of rich people's feelings. And it's like pretty accurate because only rich people look at the stock market. Even if you do have your little 2 cents of stocks on your little
that's it. Yeah, you're not doing nothing crazy
or dollars off of it. You're not the ones making like millions off of millions or billions off of millions or whatever the case.
And I also think it's really important to bring up too, especially in that first part, or not the first part. I skipped one part, the very first thing, coronavirus. We'll get to that later. But when we're talking about the economy, the president didn't actually say anything. He had no plans listed. So that's something I think a lot of people just missed because of the way the president's debating style was just to cause chaos. That's what he was there to do. So I think for him coming on being that person, his support group, they want to see him tell it like it is, say it, whatever. But he didn't actually say what he was doing.
Right.
I'm all for telling it like it is, but I thought it was extremely hilarious that he made so many claims during this debate, and then after the debate, when they went and talked to the fact checkers of the things
none
that
of
he
it was
saying,
correct.
He was like, no,
I was
that's wrong, incorrect.
Do
But
y'all
people
not
were
watch this
at
too?
home.
Do y'all not
People
watch
were
this
at
too?
home. Trump supporters were at home going, yes, sis. And it's like, none of this is factual. Like, I can tell you that the sky is fluorescent beige too. Would you believe it? Like, it was like, it's scary to me when people believe what he says to an extent where it's like, he's got to be telling the truth. And I'm like, okay.
Like, yeah. For me, it's always when people believe, or when just whoever they pick, and it doesn't have to be for this, just in general, whenever for politicians, it's the idea of kind of how Rogelio was saying, it's not about like, we have to stop idolizing politicians. Like, we should hold them accountable. And I think the slogan Bully Biden 2020 is so great because we should be, right? Like, as mean as it sounds, bullying our politicians. If they're not doing what they said they're going to be doing, if they're not living up to the expectations, I genuinely believe it is our right as American people to bully them. Like,
absolutely.
It creates this humbleness in the presidency that we haven't really seen, because who's bullying the president right now? I mean, I will say people do clap back, like the sheriff in Portland, Oregon, where the president said, the sheriff in Portland, Oregon supports me. And that sheriff tweeting later on that night, I've never supported him. I never will support him.
Yeah.
Those are moments I kind of live for, because I think those are really important moments. We have to bully our administration. We have to at this point. Like, if they're lying,
well, bully, bully is a sensitive word out here in the media. So we want to hold them accountable. I definitely feel like we want to hold our politicians accountable. Nobody should be bullied. We don't. APLA Health, Pyramid does not support bullying. We just want to put that out there. But I think it's very important that we do hold our administration accountable. And how do you do that? And again, I think that it starts at the local level. And to Rogelio's point, with the Doomers, because many may have not heard of the Doomers, but they are a very large, growing little community of people who feel like, our voice doesn't matter. And it doesn't if it's not used, at the end of the day. No voice matters if it's not used. And
the biggest voting bloc is non-voters in this country.
It takes time. And I think the thing that the debate proved to me, I agree with Kai 100%. I think that Trump came in to really throw Biden off his game. I think that he came in to say whatever he wanted to say because he knew that the talking points that they agreed upon, he knew what Biden's prep team was going to prep him. And I think Biden's prep team really prepped him in a way where they told him, stick to the facts, stick to what you're doing, and speak to the American people, which is what he did. But a lot of time, in some instances during the debate, it came across like you're ignoring a big thing. And this is something that you actually have a platform to address, and you're letting Trump just really like bulldoze you. And shout out to Chris Wallace, because that man needs a raise, a blunt, a drink, and a vacation.
He still works for Fox for maybe not. But
was that the one that moderated it?
Yes,
he did a horrible job.
I think he did a really good job.
I think he did an amazing job.
So before we even get into that, let's go ahead and take a really, really quick break before we get into the moderator. When we come back, we'll talk about the moderator. We'll talk about some of the other topics like the Supreme Court, COVID-19, and then we'll get into popular stuff as well. So we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us, and we'll see you all soon.
Right. Touch up our powder.
That part.
Hey guys, Ty here from APLA Health, and I got some good news for you.
APLA Health is launching our first ever at-home HIV testing initiative.
As we battle the global pandemic of COVID-19 and all that it entails,
APLA Health is doing what we can to fill the gaps for those who are in need of knowing their status, linking into care, and having safer sex options.
The initiative, officially known as Swab and Chill, will be our virtual hub for those seeking to take an HIV test, receive HIV kits, link into medical care for those who are HIV positive, while also having access to several other programs and services that specialize in harm reduction for HIV infection.
Such services include PrEP and PEP information, as well as substance abuse services. Our goal with Swab and Chill is to make HIV testing easily accessible and easy to use within the comfort of your own home.
We provide each client with the OraQuick at-home testing kit. This kit is a simple test that is done by orally swabbing the gums and waiting 20 minutes for your results.
APLA staff is available to virtually assist clients with taking the test while providing resources and support for those who may test positive.
maybe you already know your status and you're just low on condoms and lube due to accessibility. No problem. We can also send you one of our safer sex kits right to your front door.
As we strive to keep our community safer and well informed, your privacy is also a high priority.
All packaging will appear from APLA Health. Our over-the-phone assessments are quick, easy, and secure, so you can feel safe in sharing your results with us and asking any questions that you may have.
If you or someone that you know is interested in having one of our at-home testing kits mailed to you, or you just want more information on what Swab and Chill can provide, please call one of our team members at 323-329-9713, or just email us at swabandchill@gmail.com.
Come swab and chill with us.
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 And we're back.
And we're back.
Wonderful.
Right.
And your hair
Since
is
last
so
week, I
better.
can't get out of my head. Whenever I hear Ty say accessible,
I
after
love
Daniel
it.
pointed it out.
So cute. I love it. It's one of my
That's
favorite
funny.
things.
I have braces. Don't judge me.
Easily accessible. Easily accessible.
So yeah, so if you watch the commercial, thanks so much for joining us back or joining back with us. Anyway, thanks for coming back.
They knew what you meant.
So back to back to the debate. Before we left, we were talking about the moderator. And I think this is a really thing to bring up is the moderator as well as just the structure. Obviously, we know there needs to be some changes. The whole purpose is everyone gets 2 minutes, you're quiet when it's not your turn. That
Right.
didn't happen. I'm all for a muting button for these microphones.
It should have been
I
on
don't
Zoom.
Get why it didn't before.
Yeah.
They had to cut his mic like they did Nene on Real Housewives of Atlanta reunion.
Wow.
And for me, I also felt like the moderator was trying to get control, but there were moments even the moderator was laughing. I figure it was like frustration, but I definitely felt like there was a lot of like the moderator was scared.
It almost came off like one of those like recess yard debates where you go outside and you see two kids arguing and you got the one person that's friends with the both of them like, oh my God, stop, but that was funny. Oh my God, don't do that, but that was funny too.
Well, I
It
think
was real, I didn't like it.
That's me whenever Trump talks, honestly. Like, I think he's so unintentionally hilarious because he's so damn dumb. And just
It's
like,
hilarious that he's
immature.
not the brightest crayon in the box.
in defense of Chris Wallace, who was the moderator for the presidential debate, aside from the fact that he works for Fox, we're not going to talk about that. But I think that I've seen him moderate quite a few discussions, and I think at the end of the day, as a moderator, you really do have to come at it with a form of decorum, and you are supposed to be the unbiased party, so you can't really get too enthralled in what's happening on the stage between the podiums. And I think that he did a really good job at trying to check Trump and remind him, yo, this is what we agreed to. These were the talking points we agreed to. These were the time limits that we agreed to. But at the end of the day, we've all been in a situation where we've been talking to somebody, trying to get them to find a reason, and they're just like, be on. Now, I think we all agree a mute button would be helpful.
Absolutely.
But I highly doubt that they're going to mute the president of the United States, regardless of
wishful thinking.
I mean,
Yeah,
it was on Fox.
There was
Yeah.
even like that video compilation of Chris Wallace all the times he said Mr. President, because he's always just like Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President, trying to
Yeah,
interrupt him.
it was
It was
weird.
sad
Like
to watch.
I didn't, you know what? I didn't leave watching that debate because I wasn't anywhere. I was watching it in my living room, but I didn't leave that debate feeling like I was like getting quality presidential vibe. Like I was just like, okay, like Joe's
17%
tired.
of the
And
people that watched it said that they felt like they got new information, and I was like, "What?
got
17% of this explanation?"
yeah, I got none. His
60,
supporters, I
was
got
it
none.
69% or 64% of the nation who watched that debate said that they were annoyed.
I left more confused than I did going into it.
Right.
35% said it was pure entertainment.
Well,
And
One thing I will. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Rogelio.
One thing I will like shout out Joe Biden for saying, and like probably one of my favorite lines from the debate was when he said that Antifa is not a group, it's an idea, because I think that that's such a common like. It's such a thing that even the media has run with recently, that like, oh,
Yeah.
Antifa on the left, and like, you know, it's basically the same as white supremacy. And it's like Antifa literally isn't a group. They're like a group of people who gather sometimes when they're going to be like white supremacists displaying, but there's no, you know, Antifa chapter. There are no Antifa meetings, you know, there is no organized group. So I think that was a really good and surprising point for Biden to make.
Besides him calling Trump a clown, which I lived for, I really was, I mean, I know it's like standard, you're supposed to do it anyway, but when he defended his son from those lies that Trump was saying, that really touched me a little bit, because it was like, wow, you know, he's a father, and like, you know, this is my son. And, you know, I was like, you're spewing all of these lies, and this man is going to hop over this podium and hit you with his cane.
I
like,
was ready for
Biden
to be like, if you say one more thing about my son, we're going outside. But
that's what I thought was going to happen. Yes.
But
yes,
I almost got choked up. I was like, oh, wow, like he's really defending his son. But at the same time, Trump had a point, because if you're not rich and powerful, your children can't get away with, you know, being on drugs and still getting paid hundreds of $1,000s a month just because your dad is vice president. So Trump had a point, but it was a really, really low blow.
It was a
when
low
he brought
blow.
up the drug issues.
Too early in the debate, too.
And I don't know how to feel about Biden talking about, I know his prep team probably was like, don't say any of that, because when he started talking about his son's drug problem, and he was like, yes, my son was on drugs, yes, this, and I stand with my son. I know for a lot of us who have, you know, of course, in disenfranchised communities, you know, those of us who grew up in the hood, who that might be our story. Like, we have a brother or we have a sister, we have a mother or whatever that has gone through drugs. But when you think about middle America and the majority of the country, I am sure that they looked and heard that, and it did not work in Biden's favor.
You know what? I think that you'd be surprised. It's a lot of people that would probably identify with that in the hood and out of the hood, and the way that he skated through that was the best that he was that night.
I think what he did in that moment was a really good thing to appeal to people's emotions, by like having this almost vulnerable moment where it's like, my son really went through it. Because I think whether it's drugs or not, everyone can at least feel that they've had a family member who kind of had a rough time, but we're there to work. I think that was a good moment, and that was one of those moments Joe Biden looked right in the camera. However, I am going to go back to kind of what Rogelio and Ty were saying too, about like, that's also privilege there. And I think the president was kind of trying to refer to it, because the president kept bringing up Joe Biden's 1994 incarceration law, which was the big law for mass incarceration. So that's where we saw a lot of people of color actually going to drugs for going to jail for small drug related charges. So I know a lot of people were saying it's so strange to hear Joe Biden, like, in one breath talk about, you know, supporting his son, when there are people who were less fortunate who got a lot of time for something less as
dangerous. Are dead or in jail now.
But also, but I didn't feel right watching two white men discuss their privileges. Like, that wasn't something that sat with me. It was like, oh, they're acknowledging their privilege. I'm not worried about that. Like, that was that when, and I think that you're right. Trump was hinting towards, you know, you have this privilege of X, Y, and Z. And then Biden's like, well, you didn't pay your taxes because of your privilege. And it's like, what are we talking about? Like, what are we doing?
And I think with this, we see the where the privilege really comes into play. I mean, everywhere. But when we talk about the whole racial section was just really, really hard for everyone.
I don't like people of color being spoken to like we're this corner of the zoo.
Right.
And you're talking
Chicago.
about my team's gonna go see the colored people at the zoo. Like it's like you're trying to like lump us in and put us in this corner like we're some sort of like, you know, what are you gonna do about the blacks? Or what are you gonna do about the browns? And it's like that's not the right way to go about doing that. That didn't make me feel comfortable at all. Like,
that was one thing I wanted.
I don't know if that has, and this might be an unpopular opinion, I don't necessarily know if that's a white politician thing. I think every politician is going to pander to
agreed
communities of color, and even
it's a hot topic.
Even politicians, black politicians and politicians of color, when they do it, it's cringeworthy.
Yes, agreed.
You know, but again, it goes back to these are still two white men. At the end of the day. And when people try to say, oh, Joe is better than Trump or Trump, they're still two white men. They still come from a space that I don't think anybody on this panel can relate to. You know, so it's like you kind of get what you get. I will say though, and this might switch gears just a little bit, about the Proud Boys comment that Trump had, where he told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by.
Yeah.
Thoughts and feelings when you heard that?
I thought it was KKK. I was like, that's what it sounds like when KKK members speak. When they're singing. Like,
yeah.
And for me, it was such an uncomfortable, it was an instant like, oh my gosh, like what did I just
I think that was when, like, you know, in the movies where the dramatic thing happened and it goes, and like everything stops. Right. That's what that was. And to stand back and stand by instead of denouncing or talking about how bad these groups are, but Black Lives Matter, it's constantly in your mouth about them being thugs and taking away these monuments and these terrorists. Like the Proud Boys are domestic terrorists. So why are you not acknowledging on the other end, even if you do feel this way about Black Lives Matter, which is completely not true, even if you do feel about that, why are you not denouncing this group of young KKK members? Like, did we just change the name? Like, or what did we do?
Because the Proud Boys responded. They changed their logo to include stand back, stand by. They, many of the members tweeted, you know, yes, sir, we're ready when you are, you know, so and it was interesting because after the debate, you know, Trump Jr. Spoke on behalf of his father. And so Gayle asked him about that particular comment. And he was like, you know, I don't know what he meant by that. I have to ask him what he meant by that. But I just think that he probably just misspoke. And I thought it was very interesting that Trump Jr. can defend every other thing that his father says, can interpretate every other thing that his father says. But when it comes to this, I don't know what he meant. I have to talk to him about.
Yeah, I'm curious to see after the presidential election, when Trump does lose, I'm curious to see what comes after that. I'm expecting a tell-all book from Melania. I'm expecting his son to do a book. I'm expecting a lot of people in his family, in his cabinet, you know, to distance themselves from them, as if this is going to make people change their mind about the fact that they've encouraged everything that this man has said. I think that when we dump Trump, we should dump the Trumps. I don't think that outside of, you know, anything else, it's because they're in entertainment, right? They're the next family after the Kardashians. So if we're going to denounce that, I think that we should really show them, you know, nothing that you can have a conversation with me about makes any sense, because we watched y'all for 4 years do some of the most inhumane and say some of the most inhumane things, and y'all stood there and smiled and waved when he said my family lost billions for assisting this country. No one asked you but the Proud Boys to do so. You didn't do us any favors. There was no favors.
Yeah, it was weird. And for me, I know a big thing with this whole racial debate is it was so strange to me that the moment race came up, they both went straight to Law and Order and police. And for me, I was like, that's an indication of what you think. You can't think of Black people without police. And the president went straight there. He wasted no, didn't even mention anything. Word police and cops came out of his mouth before Black Lives.
Agreed.
And it was just really rough to also hear Joe Biden. And I mean, obviously, Joe Biden is not the person that we want for like things like defund the police things. So it was interesting to hear him say, you know, we want to go back and look. But it was just a very weird moment when, as we've mentioned before, two white men talking about race relationships in the country, and then all they're talking about is really supporting the police or protecting the police. And I was like, this is
right.
Also that comment that Trump made, I've done more for the blacks. Like, he's not even acknowledging Latino communities or any other community. I've done more for the blacks than anyone has done in the past 60 years.
Yeah, we know that.
Right. I wasn't even surprised by his comments,
okay
honestly.
with saying that? Like, you thought that was facts? Got it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
No, yeah.
But I have a question for you guys. So there's a lot of talk in the blog areas and in a lot of political commentators or people in politics who are on the ground, a lot of movers and changers that feel like whether Trump wins or loses, they foresee a civil war happening in this country. Where do you guys stand on that? Do you think that there's truth to that? Do you think that that's not going to happen?
I don't think that there's going to be a civil war. Like, I doubt that there's going to be a civil war. I definitely think we're inching towards it. And I think that there's a lot of division. But I don't think that a lot of the like more niche extreme groups have enough like political power and like, you know, places where they'd be able to actually support themselves in that. I definitely foresee if Trump wins or loses that on election night or around then, we're probably going to see a lot of domestic terrorism from his supporters or from people who are somehow aligned with whatever he said, whether it's a Proud Boys or whatever. And I definitely see that happening, but I feel like it's still, we haven't gotten to the point where I feel like there are enough politicians who would like back a civil war. Because I feel like right now the Republicans are going by everything that Trump's doing because Trump has a Republican base. But I still feel like there's a line that they wouldn't cross because they know that that's like political suicide. There's a lot of them that are not, and to that point, there's a lot of them that are, I can foresee a lot of the Republicans dropping Trump after this. Like, a lot of them are just sticking with their guns because they want to be men and women of their word. And it's like, you know, I want to pledge allegiance to this party. I agree with Rogelio. I don't foresee a full-on civil war, but definitely domestic terrorism. It's in the imagery. When you watch Trump's commercials, you see a lot of Black Lives Matter stuff going on, and he's saying that this is Biden's America. But these take back your country,
and it's like he's egging this on, but all of this footage comes from while you are president. This is not a fast forward to the future. We didn't grab this footage and say, when Biden becomes president, this is what's going to happen. No, this is happening while you're hiding in the bunker. So since we have that kind of imagery on TV, I can definitely see a lot of the radical right definitely going into, like Rogelio said, to their neighborhoods and scaring the people in their neighborhoods and trying to make a statement. But I don't believe that it'll last too long. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. The Civil War idea, I definitely heard it and I've seen it and I've thought about it. I'm not quite sure because I think there's a lot of different ways. Like, civil war in what sense? Is this a war of the people, just random people groups? Are these going to be government entities? Because I believe too, just like how everyone else is saying, if Trump doesn't win, Republican Party is not going to back him. There's absolutely they're backing him right now to seem united because that's the big, it's, you know, the difference between them and us. So they want to create that unitedness. But I think if he doesn't win, it's not going to be about uniting under him anymore. It's like just kind of coming to work together. But I do see individual groups kind of in the domestic terrorism kind of idea coming out.
And then it could also go a different way too, to Kai's point. It could also go a different way as well. I've watched something called the Coney Method. A lot of the stuff that President Trump did leading up to his election as president, when he got elected, you'd be surprised at how many Republicans were very surprised and shocked. And a lot of them are reminded of it. Chris Cuomo just did an interview with Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz was defending Trump till the cows came home. And Chris Cuomo stopped him and said, "This is the same man that called your wife ugly."
Right.
And all of these things, he played hardball to become the Republican nominee. I think that a lot of them did not forget that, but they want to appear to the American people
Right.
that they are a united front because it's a hot mess right now.
And they also
Yeah.
just benefit because they're in power right now. So
Yeah.
as long as they're able to get their, agenda passed, then they don't really care that Trump is like this horrible, incompetent person. And like you said, like we were talking about before this, everybody is going to play the Omarosa playbook. They're going to get in there and be a part of the administration because it's easy for now, so that they could turn around later and say this man was crazy. Here's my book. Here's my tour. Here is, the next thing I'm working on. And it's created this whole like economy of Trump people who are literally getting a platform off of working for this horrible person because they were stupid enough to take a chance on him in the first place.
Yeah.
And they're like
Yeah.
getting money out of it and fame. And that's also
Yeah.
something that we have to watch for because, even with like people liking George Conway, which is, what's her name? Kellyanne Conway's husband. Like, he's still Republican. He's just a Republican
Yeah.
who thinks that Trump is shit, or Trump is bad, which is bad, which is great, but it's still like, he's not going to help us in our agenda and what we want to accomplish for the country.
Yeah.
That's actually a really great point. So before we go, because we only have 8 minutes left, and I want to talk
Can
on this.
you believe that?
We had a lot to say,
Right.
but I want to talk about our president getting COVID-19, announcing it the day after making fun of someone for wearing a mask. But before we go any further, I want to remind everyone, especially as we see that the president has gone home, that he is the 1% who has had the best healthcare known to man. So please don't believe that you can kick COVID in 3 days. That you
And there's
are
also
not
that
getting
video of
picked
him
up in a
heavy breathing
helicopter.
in front of the White House,
Yeah.
right?
And that's the thing. You see that video of him. President Trump right now is having issues breathing. It is completely, and I find it just, for me, my biggest thing from all of this is the White House is just a hotspot, and they're still continually handing the same things. So guys, wear a mask. Wear a
31
mask.
cases.
So do you
31
guys
cases.
truly believe that he has it, or do you think that it was a ploy for something else?
I think he has it.
At
I don't
first,
think
I
that
thought
they
it was
would.
a publicity stunt until he went up the steps and was out of breath. And I was like, well, he is not the most fit person in the world. So I'm like, but the recovery process of
If I
being
went
2
upstairs,
days,
I'd be out of breath. I'm just fat.
I know, that's what I was saying. So it's like, if the recovery
painted
process
him really
being 2
orange.
days, right, yes. So I do believe that he did get COVID. I don't believe that this would have been a stunt to show people that they can go to his rallies and go out and get COVID, because Herman Cain died. So let's not forget that people have gone to these rallies where he's spewing this idiotic stuff, and they're getting COVID and they're dying. Trump got picked up in a helicopter. A good 10 times out of 10, you're not that special to get picked up in a helicopter. Wear a mask.
Bankrupt most people. Just that ride to the hospital in a helicopter would bankrupt most people in the country. Just that alone.
Right.
I don't think
I
at this
can't.
point, it would really help. I don't think it would help him to lie about having
No,
COVID at this point,
Me
because
either.
because of this like fallout, there are like 2 or 3 Republican senators that are out. They might not be able to nominate or confirm the Supreme Court justice. So this is going to end up, and he's also not able to campaign as much as he was able to before. So I'm just like, there's no reason why they would do this, like as a conspiracy or to make something up. Like, this is probably real, especially because 31 cases have been tracked back to like the outbreak in the White House. So at this point, it's like, it's too many people.
It's a smack in the face to the 210,000 people that did pass away.
Right.
Like, you're making this a publicity stunt, like we're watching the Hunger Games.
He's saying, "Don't let it beat you," as if it's a choice.
It's disgusting.
Well,
It's
apparently on Twitter, there is a tweet saying that you can spend $100 in the White House gift shop for a coin that said, "I beat this."
No, it's not.
I'm
just telling you what the internet.
names.
They rolled it out.
Register the names.
So quick.
Register the names of everybody that purchases that coin. They are future problems.
The tweet said that there's a $100 coin that you can purchase in the White House gift shop.
I just got nauseous.
That says, "I beat this."
Maybe they were planning that because coronavirus was this year, but like, yeah, that's fishy.
I'd rather get a coin that said, "I survived Trump."
Right.
I ain't paying $100 for that though.
No, it better be free.
Right. I'm not paying for anything with his name on it.
Lord. But yeah, I think ultimately, when people are watching this, and because a lot of people are saying like he could get better now, but it really gets bad in like a week, 2 weeks, or around then is when you're starting to see the change.
Right.
So I know a lot of people are saying right now like you shouldn't wish ill on him. I'm not telling anyone to wish ill on him. I'm not telling anyone to not wish ill on him. What I do is what I do. What you do is what you do. But I just want to remind.
I can't comment on that.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone: please do not take this man's recovery as a normal recovery. He has been given the best drugs, has been given cocktails and things that haven't even been released to the general public. And it's all through the Affordable Care Act in the hospital that he could possibly overturn with his new Supreme Court nomination. So keep that in mind too, everyone, that like, you know, this president got a lot of things that most people don't. It is not something that you can just say in 3 days, I beat it. No, you didn't. It's absolutely impossible.
And he was getting tested daily. Remember, there are lines of cars for us regular people to go and get tested. You will not have the same outcome as Trump if you decide not to wear a mask. Please be a little bit smarter than that.
And just because you get tested doesn't mean you're good to go, because that's what a lot of people, for normal people, you say, oh, I've been tested, now I'm going to go have this party with 80 other people who all have been tested beforehand. No, we're still wear your face mask, still social distance. I don't care if you got tested 5 minutes ago. From 5 minutes until now, you could have been exposed. Put that mask on.
Absolutely.
So we're coming to the end of the episode. Does anyone have anything that they want to share before we leave? Just burning in your soul.
I did have a couple of pop culture things that I wanted to bring up. So I forgot to mention this last week, but everybody should check out the Paris Hilton documentary. I know you might not have the most positive opinion of her, but like it's really, really insightful. And she also opens up about her abuse, having gone to this like really strict like boarding high school that like tortures basically the kids there. And Kat Von D actually just came out about it, saying that she went to the same school and had a similar experience. So I definitely checked that out. It gave me a new view of Paris Hilton, even though I've always kind of been a fan. And also, Ari Lennox just released new music. So check out Chocolate Pomegranate.
Anyone else?
Just a reminder that tomorrow is the debate between Kamala and Pence at 6 p.m. I do believe. So make sure that you tune in if you're interested to see how their debate goes. I'm sure it's going to be very interesting.
It will be interesting. Watch, guys. Watch that one. Anything?
Yes, absolutely. Check out the linkupapla.tumblr. I'm telling you, everything that I have been preaching about for the past 3 or 4 months, like it's all on there. I'm starting to sound like a broken record, so I'd rather you go and see it for yourself. And if you can drop us a line, or if you want to like volunteer with us and stuff like that, there's also a form on there that you can fill out so we can have you come in and do some good work for the community, even at home. So definitely check out the linkupapla.tumblr.com. And that's all I got. And I'm learning the choreography to Hit Different by SZA.
Okay.
New challenge next week.
Yeah.
But we want to thank everyone so much for tuning in again, hearing our takes on how the world is going in politics. Join us again, same time, same place next week. And we will see you all Tuesday. Be safe. Wash your hands.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes.